Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started then. So let me share my screen. That. Share. Cool. Alright, so starting out, so this is the main AWS console. So whenever you're actually logging in and dealing with kind of spinning up instances and playing around with AWS stuff, you'll use this page a lot to kind of go between all the different services. Today we'll focus primarily on the EC2 stuff. But first, I want to change my change the region in which I'll be deploying, because I live over in Seattle, so I want to make sure I have a instance kind of somewhere close to me, since I'll be using it mostly. So I'm changing it up here in the upper right-hand corner, changing it from kind of the default, I believe, the US East to the US West over in Oregon. Once we get there, I'm going to go into EC2 and start deploying an instance. So in my case, I plan to have this thing on for a long period of time, so I'm going to go ahead and reserve a full year of the instance. I've already looked into what size I want and all the stuff around it, so I'm just going to go through and choose the things I want to do, search for that, found it here, tells me the cost and all that stuff, tells me the availability zone, which I'll have to take notes of for later. And I'll just add that to cart, and then purchase that. Cool. So that went through. It's actually the first time I've ever done a reserved instance. That's really cool. So I think the way it works is that when you reserve the instance, you basically have already paid for the use of that over the course of those 12, like in this case, 12 months. And I can just now spin up an instance with the same specs and the same region and the same AZ, I think. And it will not cost me the kind of on-demand cost. So I'm going to go through, so I'm going to go back really fast. So when you're actually spinning up a new instance of any sort, you'll go to the left-hand side here, go to Instances, and click on Launch an Instance. And so for me, I know I want to use the Amazon Linux image. This is basically choosing your operating system. So my computer itself is running Windows, but I do a lot of stuff in Linux, both at work and on the side. So I'll be using Linux for a server, and it's also definitely cheaper. So I just chose a M4 large, so I'm going to use that in my settings here. Configure the next step. On this page, I think I need to just change the subnet to make sure I'm in the right AZ. So I chose US West 2B, so I'm going to go through and use that one. I'm going to add storage. For me, I'll up this a little bit to 20 gigs. I can add an extra volume later on, I think, whenever I start using more data in there. But for now, for the OS itself, 20 should be sufficient. The next tag stuff, you can do this, you can use sort of any sort of values you want to put up there. Kind of, it helps mostly with managing large fleets of things, but for me, I don't really need that for anything. So this page is actually important for my uses because I plan to deploy a Jupyter server on there, so I need to make sure I open up the right ports for this. So I'm going to give this a name. Are you familiar with port stuff at all?
No.
Okay, so the cool thing here is, so there's, yeah, I don't know, it's the best way to describe it, but so the three that we're using here, so I'm going to have the SSH port 22, and what that means is that I can use a particular protocol in order to log into it over the internet and be able to access the server remotely. HTTPS is similar to like you browsing the internet, just a secure version of the old HTTP. I'm going to open that port up, and then this custom rule here is going to be port 8888, and that's what I'm going to use to be able to access the Jupyter notebook itself. So I'm adding those in. Do a launch. So now quickly review. So it does warn me that it's open to the world for a variety of ways, and I know that's going to be the case. That is on purpose, but it's good to know that there's a warning. Let's see, the right instance image, the right type, I believe, I hope. Security type is set up, instance details, storage, make sure that's right. So 20 gigs SSD, unencrypted, cool. So I'm gonna click launch. So right here when I'm launching it, it's gonna ask me to create a key pair. And what this is for the SSH stuff itself. There's, you could, I think with all EC2 instances, I think you need to use the key pair thing. If you set up your own like physical server at home, you could also use a password, but this is a lot more secure, so this is a better way to go. So I'm going to create a new key pair. I'm going to call it Jupyter EC2. And so to be super secure, AWS has limited it so you can only download that key pair once. So I'm going to click download, and I'll make sure I put that in the right spot later when I'm actually using it. So I'm going to click launch. Now that I've downloaded the key pair, that will give me access to the instance itself. So I'm going to click launch. It's going to be doing some stuff in the background. I'm going to view the instance. So it's still pending, kind of doing its thing. And one thing I want to do once it's launched is update my domain to be able to add a subdomain. So I'm going to add a subdomain of Jupyter. It's going to be CNAME. And the target host will be whatever this shows up as. So yeah, let's see. So it may take a second because there's a bigger instance than I've launched over the weekend, but it's relatively quick, relatively easy. Oh, there we go. So now in order to point a subdomain from my top level domain, or from my personal domain there, I'm just going to copy the public DNS thing here. So it's basically just a domain name to be able to access the server itself. I'm going to paste that inside here. Actually, this record type of CNAME, and Jupyter here is going to be kind of, I'll use jupyter.zachmuller.com in order to access this host. So I'll click save. Now it may take a minute or two to actually propagate and update for me to use it, but so that's there. The next thing I need to do is convert that key that I downloaded into something I can use. So let me this. Okay, so inside here. Oops. Okay. Not sure what. Okay, so here's where I download the key to. So one thing I need to do is convert it to something that I can use for the tool that I'll be using itself. So in order to do this, I'll run a tool called puttygen. I'm going to load the key itself. Well, let me double check the settings. SSH2, that's right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to load that key file first. So it's the thing here. It's just telling me it's saving it to its own special format for putty. So it's that. I should leave the passphrase blank so I don't need to type a password every time. And then I will click save private key. And save that password since I know it's secure somewhere. And this will actually become a PPK file. So I'll save that and make sure that showed up. Yes, it did. Okay, cool. So now that's there. I can close this out. And now I can actually access my server itself. So adding in a new connection setting for this new server, what you need to do is create the user at the host name. So I'm going to do EC2 user because that's the default that is created by the Amazon for Linux. And then I'm going to do my subdomain that I just created, port 22 SSH. And then I need to also add in my key itself. So I'm going to browse for that key. So to add in the key, you go down to the connection, SSH auth. You go to jupyter.pk, open that. Back in the session, let's call this Jupyter EC2. I'll save it so I can access it later, and then I'll click open. Then this popped up down the other screen, and I just click yes because I know it's my key. So now here, let me change the font size. Fix that. So everything will be nice. So you guys can see it. Let's change this to 16. Go back here. Oh, there it goes. Let me change it. Okay. Save that. Let's open it again. Much better. much more readable. Okay, cool. So now, cool, charge me. So now I've got that. So the first step I'm going to do is something that we'll use it later on. We don't directly be using it right now, but I need to do it as, so sudo is a command of sorts that you prefix other commands to give your login root level access, so you can control basically anything on the system. So this I need to do for creating a SSL certificate, and that just makes sure that I can actually, well, it's a self-signed SSL certificate, but which is not really the standard, but it'll work for my purposes since it's just a personal project. All this is doing is creating a key file for oops or not. So oh, rack. Okay. There we go. Okay, I need to fill in some info. Cool. So that made a little .pem file, which is just a way to certificate that my server will be able to use later. So next I'm going to create the separate user that will be running the actual Jupyter notebook itself. So I'm going to do sudo add user, and now I'm going to switch to be logged in as that user. So you'll notice over here it says EC2 user, whatever, so that means I'm logged in as that. Now it's going to switch to where I'm JP user now. So now I'm logged in as this new user. And by default, it doesn't have, the new user doesn't have that much access. It creates its own home directory. So if I'm looking at kind of the directories that are within the home directories, there's the EC2 user has its own, then I also have my JP user here. So it's basically a way of securely separating out what the users can access. Like there's no way I can access that folder while I'm logged in as this user. So the next thing I'm going to do is, so I'm in my home directory, I'm going to download a file, which is going to be the Anaconda installer file. Let me just paste this one in. Start downloading. Following so far?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, so this is, yeah, so using the command line, it's just basically just takes practice to figure out all the different things you want to, all the different commands, because there's like thousands of them.
Yeah.
You memorize the ones you use often, then you just Google for the rest.
Mm-hmm. With anything, you just Google it.
Yeah, these days it seems, yeah. So it's a pretty big file. Okay, download that. So this installs Anaconda, which you've done already on your laptop. But it's the same basic thing on the Linux version. So do that. Then, so the nice thing about the way Anaconda is set up is that it doesn't need to have root level access to install. So even though I am logged in as a restricted user right now, I can still install all the Anaconda stuff, and it'll just work, which is very handy. Then, go. Yeah. So you'll have to learn the command line soon. Have you not used that at all in your computer science classes?
No, not in my classes.
That's curious. You'd think they would. I guess with Java you don't necessarily need to. Okay, so that's there. So one thing that's definitely good to do whenever you're downloading files like this, so you'll run this thing called the MD5 hash. And the way it's a bit of a complicated.
Sandy.
So the way this works is that you can I'll leave you on mute for a bit. So what this does is it basically computes runs some sort of algorithm that computes a little, in this case, a hexadecimal number, I think. And the way this is helpful is that you can compare to make sure you've got the exact same file that you intended to download. So I've got this here, and I can check it against their repo, which so their archive. So I downloaded the file over here, and it's pretty hard to see. So I just download this file, looking at this hash. Looks like it matches the hash that I downloaded. There, so it matches those. It's just a way to make sure that nobody kind of interrupted or intercepted your download and gave you a malicious file of any sort. So now that I've got the file, I'm going to run it. So we'll just run bash Anaconda, and this is a impressive implementation of making you read a license file. If you get too far, it skips. Hit yes. And then I'm going to choose to install it in the home directory Anaconda 3, and I'll leave it at that default and just hit enter. And I was going to go ahead and install. Are you muted still? Can you unmute yourself? I don't know how to change that. Oh, there you go. Oh, shit. Unmute yourself because is she still barking?
There we go. No, she left.
Okay, good. Oh, nice. So it's installing all the same packages that you always get, which is a lot of them. So it'll take a second to do that. And then next I'll show you. Okay, so this is asking if you want to prepend this to your path. So what this means is that when you're in a command line interface, you have like a certain set of directories in which your command line will look to look for the like commands that exist inside there. So in this case, I want it to prepend it. And what that does is that it adds all the Anaconda tools that were just installed. It would make sure it is accessible through the command line directly rather than having to like change directory to Anaconda's folder to actually access the tools. So one thing one thing also there is that if I do this command called which, it'll tell me where it's finding that command at. So in this case, right now, the Python it would normally run is within this user bin Python folder. But that's because I haven't actually implemented this path update. So if I source the bash RC file that I just updated, I run that, and then rerun that which Python command. Now, this little tilde character just means it's your home directory for the user you're logged into. Then Anaconda 3 bin Python. So now my Python command is going to be pointing to this location first, and it'll run the command from there. So it adds that there, which is handy. And so right now I'm going to conda update all, just to make sure everything else is up to date. Now I'll take a second as well. And then I will configure all these changes. I'll configure the Jupyter notebook itself. So when I helped you set up your Jupyter notebook on your local system, I only had you set up the Python 3, I think 3.4 or 3.5. But what I'm going to do on here is install both 2.7 and 3.5. So I'll show you how that's done. So that can be handy if you want to like run a particular set of tools that aren't available in 3.5 that you can run it in Python 2.
Okay.
So you can also play around with that on here rather than having to install it locally in your system, which would be handy. But they're very, very similar. There's only certain nuances to a few different esoteric things I haven't run into yet. And the print command is different. That's about it, as far as I can tell right now. So since I have got that installed, we will set up in the home directory, yeah, so Jupyter notebook. create a new folder and a new folder and a new config file for Jupyter. Now, the reason for that is I want to actually install So this is going to give me something I'll need for actually creating the config for the Jupyter thing. Python. So now I'm going to move into that folder I just had. I'm going to edit a file. Try to save this. So the interesting thing about PuTTY is that you can't use Control-C to copy. So what you have to do is right-click to copy, which can get annoying because it also does this. It'll automatically paste it back in. It also has the paste button. So weird, but that's how it goes. So Nano is, there's all sorts of ways you can edit text files within command line. I mostly use Nano. There's other ones like Emacs and Vim. I'm not crazy enough to use either of them. So we've got this. So now I'm just going to update some settings I know I'll need to change for getting this working the way I want it to. So here, so the first line IP is basically listen from any IP address rather than specifying a specific location to be listening in on. This I can paste. Yeah. And there's the password. So this is, I typed a password in before, and this is just the hash of that password. And I can use that to log in once I have it actually set up and running. Then this flag tells it not to open the notebook itself locally. So like you've got it running on your local system, and by default it'll open up a browser tab for you. But in this case, I want to do that because it's just there, and I want to actually just be running in the background. See that notebook cert file. This is where that's the key, the cert file thing we made earlier for the OpenSSL stuff. That's being used here. Basically, just a self-signed SSL certificate, which is just a little requirement to actually run something for HTTPS. And those are all the config files that you do. So the config file itself, besides this stuff, it all comes in, like all these hash pound signs are just comments. So it's all commented out. There are like all the settings that you could change are shown here and described in some detail there. And then the only things I want to do are these here. So I'm just going to hit Control X to close Nano, and then hit Y here to say yes to save it, and then hit Enter to save it to the same file name. So that's all there, and that's updated. So now, if I move down to, move back up a folder, which means I'm now in my home directory. You can see the little tilde there. In my home directory, I want to create actually a new folder. So make dir is command for creating a folder. Create a folder, and then move into that folder. I'm inside the Jupyter folder. I'm going to run the Jupyter notebook. Now it's up and running. So now what that means is I can do and access it here. So now this is, since I have it open on a specific port, I'm going to access the same host, but on a specific port to make sure it's pointing to Jupyter itself. So I run that. Give me a second. No. Let me see. Maybe I didn't configure it. That's that button. How much? Okay, so let's see. Interesting. Guess I will debugging live. Okay. Ooh, I'm not there. Okay. So it doesn't matter. Port is there. That's there. That should work. Okay. So this one, all IP addresses there. So go back. Uh-oh. That's not good. Oh, wait a second. Maybe this is interfering. This again. No. Wow, that's pleasant. Let's try changing the port maybe. See if that does anything. Port. 899. There. Open. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now it's right here. Oh wait, that's not it. Damn it. No, it's not gonna work. So let me double check my groups, the notebook. Can't change the pen. Inbound. Yes, that one's it. And the other one's not. So that's not gonna work. Let's see. Wasn't. Hmm. Fail. Okay. So we could. That's really weird. I run it. So in the book here. Let me try recreating that certificate and go from there. Yeah. Okay, so let's close that. Let's do so I'm gonna exit out of being the JP user. Do back to this. So change the pen because I'm gonna move Jupyter file. Okay. Go back to my command. Open cell rec. Use. Oops. Switch back to the user. Here, so active kernels. And update. Wow. I guess you will. Oh, can you try maybe accessing this story? I can send this to you in the chat. Yeah.
It's telling me that my connection is not private.
Oh, why does it work for you but not me? Okay, well, that means it's working. So that's actually an error that's expected.
Okay.
because I'm at work. Dang, that's interesting. Okay, so what that means is that, so the self-signed OpenSSL thing that I did, that's the reason why that shows up. So click on Advanced, and then Proceed, I think.
Okay.
Then it opens up to the notebook itself.
Proceed. Yep. Ask me to put in the password.
Oh, testing 1, 2, 3, all lowercase. I'll be changing that after this, but.
Yep, I'm in.
Sweet, so you've got all that going, so that's nice. Okay, so that's painful. So I think this might be a work thing for me, which is a bummer.
Okay.
I'm moving it around that. I can try. I'm going to do that part. So go ahead and share your screen actually, and let me see what it looks like. Yes, we have it up and running.
Okay.
Okay. Jupyter notebook. Yeah, cool. So yeah, sweet. So that's there. Normally I'll be running it within the Jupyter folder, but actually, while you're here, why don't you go ahead and click New, and then do Terminal, so you'll have access to do some of this stuff. So now you're there, and you've got access to. Cool. Awesome. So go ahead and close that out, and it'll switch back to me, and I will continue on even without being able to do the. Being able to do it myself. I can do it on my phone though. I can maybe include my phone on this and then do it from there. Cool. So that's that. That's lovely. Okay. So I'm gonna kill that. Then go back to the next step. So this is gonna be the next step I'm gonna do is going to be installing the kernels themselves. So I'm gonna go Anaconda create 0.27. So I'm gonna create an environment that is set up primarily for Python 2.7. Can create that. I go through and do some stuff. A few of those things. I have to figure out which port I can actually use at work then. It's a bummer. Okay, so with, I don't think I ever talked through with you the how Anaconda does stuff. So since I just create an environment, I have to activate that environment before I can actually do anything within it. So I'm going to do source activate. Just basically activates whatever. That activates the environment. So it just switches, it updates my path thing to be a subset of that. So within the environment I just created, now I'm going to install all of Anaconda stuff. This is going to install all of the Anaconda packages within my Pi27 environment. So that gives it, so when I'm actually using the Jupyter Notebook stuff, it'll have Python 2 available to it, well 2.7, and you'll have all the packages as well. Because when I originally did some testing this weekend, if you just do installing Python 2.7 and you don't install any other packages, Jupyter will only have like the basic packages in there, basic Python stuff. And I use pandas a lot, so I need to have my pandas. Pandas is too much fun.
It is.
Yeah. So that's always good. Take some time. Now, also actually have to do the same thing with Python 3, I believe. We can test out some stuff there. Oh, so that's X-Writer. All these packages I want to use now. And don't you love the old school downloader bar?
It's great.
Very granular view of the percentage.
Yes. But it all works the same anyways.
Yep, in the
It's the
background.
point cross.
Yeah, all that you need. Ooh, pickle is something we should start learning as well. I started using it briefly at work recently.
What does it do?
So it's a way to store stuff in like a binary format, so you can like have it all packaged together. Because I was looking at like what's the best way to store like a Python dictionary into like a file. Because like, technically you could probably somehow write it into like a flat file, which will just be probably massive. But then I just store it as a pickle thing, and it stores it in a little jarble of data you can't interpret manually, which is helpful. And I think it also helps with ensuring transferability between different versions of Python.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good to use. But yeah, like once I have the server up running, it'll be good for you to actually test out using Python 2.7 as well. Getting used to switching between the two, because I've been mostly coding in Python 2.7 for work. Man, that is forever. Wow. Well, we are bored. Oops. That is so sad. I can delete that. Let's go this. So I've got a big machine just sitting there doing nothing. Oh, almost done. Okay, that's right. Cool. Done. Okay, so that's that. So that installed that environment. Now I'm going to run something to install the kernel itself. So IPython was the original, is the way in which the Jupyter notebook started up, is that they actually start up as IPython. So I'm going to do that. So I just installed the kernel into its, however it deals with loading kernels. And now I'm going to create a new environment, call it Pi35. Let's go to Python 3.5. And all of that. Python. Activate that. 5. Under install new. Cool. And another waiting time. What data set did we end up using last weekend that we played around with? I forget.
The visas?
Oh, the visas one, yes. Okay. Yeah, I was looking for, like for later in this thing. Oh, is that all of it? Oh, yes, it already did it once. Cool. So that's done. Python kernel. Yeah, so after we get all the kind of the setup stuff done, we can start playing around again with using different things. So again, going back to like the Anaconda stuff, I'm now in the Python 35 environment, so I need to do source deactivate to exit that. Now I'm kind of in my regular GP user stuff. So I'm going to cd into, where am I? I'm going to Jupyter. Now if I run Jupyter notebook, hello Sandy. Okay, so go ahead and let's switch back to you again. So switch back to sharing your screen and load up the Jupyter notebook.
Okay.
Cool, so it's there now. If you click on the new dropdown, you should see two options in terms of code. So now you've got Python 2 and 3. So now you can load up different versions of Python. And like longer term, a cool thing you could do here also, if I reconfigure different things, is I can have it basically load different like environments, I think, within the notebook. So I can say, give it like this project notebook, which is going to be like a Python 2.7 with these versions of all these packages. So I'll play around with that sometime whenever I get the chance.
Okay.
That's cool. So that's working. So I'm going to go back and kill that. I'm going to try installing R, though I've had trouble with it actually working. So thankfully, Anaconda also has some R stuff to it, which is very handy. This will actually install everything I need to have R running up on the server. So it's much easier than having to go, well, it's pretty easy to do it the other way too now, but it's all within Anaconda, which is nice. And even that's shiny, which is awesome. That's a fun library to use. All the packages. Oh, man. All the packages. So I'm going to have you run, once I have this installed, I'm going to try running Jupyter again and see if it actually works this time, but all weekend long when I was testing it, it didn't actually, the kernel never actually loaded in R, which is a bummer. But R would be another good language to learn if you want to do any of the data analytics stuff. So you can play around with that as well. So figure out those bugs if they still exist. So that'll be fun. Okay. Let's see what else there. So one thing that is fun to play around with, I'll repeat, is that you can actually do, so like what I'm doing now, like kind of setting up a server or whatever, what I can do after I've got it to a point where I think it's like stable and I want to keep it like as a server I can kind of turn on and turn off whenever. I can actually go over here and do things where I can like create a create an image from that. So what that does is it takes the server exactly as it is at that moment, and it'll create a copy of it and write it to an image file that you can then just directly boot up into that new image. And what that will do is that you can just launch a server and it'll have all of this stuff installed, configured exactly the same way you just had it configured. That's a very handy way of doing all that. So it helps with like when you want to, like what I could do in theory is I could first boot up a very small instance that's a lot cheaper and do all the configuration on there, and then whenever I need to kind of have a full powered server, I can save that image from that small server, turn off the small server, and then launch it from here. So I can like choose my own AMI, or I can actually find others that people have created. And then you can actually sell, if you created an image, you can actually sell it for X number of cents per hour that's used, which is interesting. Yeah, so there's all sorts of ways you can make money doing this stuff. Very funny. We should probably get set up with an AWS account at some point. It's fun. Nope, there's Mom.
Yep. It's got a loud laugh.
Yeah. Oh, next to my SQL. Okay. Oh man, it's a lot. It's probably not going to work. That's the fun of using Linux. Well, any operating system, they all suck. You'll even use Linux at school, do you?
No, not yet at least.
It seems so weird. It's like they're trying to prepare you for the real world. I can't think of any company that uses purely, I guess Apple now. Apple probably even has Linux servers running. Sweet. So that's there. Now, let me run. Notebook. We go and run that, and then let's go to yours. And try accessing it again.
Okay.
Share the screen when you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to New, and try launching an R notebook. Let's see what happens. Ready? Oh, is it working?
Looks like it.
What the heck? Maybe it says it's more powerful server. Whatever. That's great. So it works now. So now I can learn R. So
Nice.
R101. Yeah, we'll have to play around with that later then. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, because it's much easier setting up on a server like this rather than setting up in your own thing. Go back to the go back to your Jupyter real fast, and then also launch like a Python 2 instance, a Python 2 notebook.
Yep.
It works. Okay. So let's learn some Python 2.7 then too. Awesome. Okay, so you go close both of those. And this switch back to me. Screen. Cool. And I can watch all that going on. And so I can see all that stuff going on. So that's fun. Cool. So that's there. So that exists. Now, let's see. So next, let's install MySQL. And first I'm going to install within, like one thing I found out while testing this weekend was that the MySQL plugin, or the MySQL module or whatever for Python doesn't seem to exist in 3.x yet. So I have to, so in order to use any MySQL stuff, you'll have to use Python 2.7.
Okay.
Did I spell that wrong? Yes, I did. Okay, that worked. Cool. Oh, awesome. So that's there. I'm going to exit this user. Yeah, use this. Go back to my EC2 user. I'm going to install a server-wide MySQL server on here. So using the sudo yum, yum is, I don't know what it stands for, if it stands for anything, but it, instead of using like in the conda command case that uses continuum analytics, their repos, while the yum one, since it's an Amazon Linux, it's actually using the Amazon's repos. So that's where they're downloading all the stuff from. So that works. So now I've got it installed. Gotta start up the MySQL service. Start it. Ooh. That might go. Install complete. Install sudo service empty start. Oh. Oops, that. Okay. Now let me also configure it a bit more secure. So by default, it has a blank password, so I'm just going to enter there. I'm going to set the root password. Remove anonymous users, disallow root, remove test users, and reload now. Yep, all that's done, so it's run. Then I'm going to also set a thing here to basically automatically turn on the MySQL database service whenever it reboots. So really quickly, I will log into the server. I'm logged into the MySQL server itself. That's why it's got a different start there to my little thing. And I'm going to create a basic database for us to possibly play with later in a while. Database. I'm going to create a user. Three. So that basically just says create a user, the username, and then which IP stuff it's going to be accessing from. So in this case, it's going to be only accessing from itself, so it's localhost, identified by password testing123. So I've got that. I'm going to grant it privileges on all tables within the 10DB schema. Same login. That. And then flush just basically applies those to change everything. Then quit out of MySQL. So when I quit out of MySQL, what's happening is I'm no longer like logged into MySQL, but MySQL itself is actually running. So I can still access it from Jupyter later on. Now, we can actually do some code stuff there and play around with that later if we have time. All right, so now we're going to play around with doing the public data set stuff. Oh, it's going to be tricky without. It's going to be interesting now. Okay, sweet. So like I was talking about earlier, there's a bunch of like public data sets up on AWS services that you can play around with. So we'll get to that in a second. But first, I need to set up something to be able to access the S3 buckets. So you have to create this whole IAM user thing. And this is basically just a way to grant portions of like sub-accesses. So let's do that. Create. Gonna download the credentials. It's gonna give me like a access key and a actual secret key thing, which I'll do in a second. So let me copy that folder. Okay. Dump it here. Paste there. So that's there. So what I want to do actually is copy those credentials onto the remote server. So I'm going to use a tool called WinSCP. So I'll boot that up. There we go. Cool. I've got that set up already. So let me just create a new one just for fun. So the host stuff. Host is going to be using the SSH port, which is 22. EC2 user. Password's not for anything because we're actually using the same login file from before. Save it. Yes. Did I do that wrong? I guess I did that wrong. That explains that. Okay. Then I will load this one. Yeah, so this is just talking about the key being different from the shell key from before. So what this tool does is it's a way to easily, it's like File Explorer, but it lets you copy and paste files across different servers. So here's my local disk. Like I can switch to my USB drive. And then here's my credentials thing. And I'm going to paste, hello Sandy. I'm going to drop that inside of here. Oh, wait, yes. So what just happened there actually was the EC2 user doesn't normally have root access, so I can't actually paste it there first. So I have to paste it inside the home directory. So it's in the home directory, and now I no longer need this. I can close this out, lose my connection, and get rid of this. And now I can go back to my server here. So I'm logged in as EC2 user. If I go to my home directory, so I'll just go to my home directory. And now those credential file is there. So I want to move it to a more, also, I want to move it to a place where the JP user, the Jupyter user, can actually access it. So I'm going to move to one of the more public things, because right now that user can't even see anything inside my folder, this folder itself. So I'm going to move it to sudo. Where did that go? Move credentials.csv to etc. Shows.csv. Bam. So that's moved. It's no longer in this folder. And I should. If I need to go to Jupyter. So there's a few different ways to actually access these different data sources. So one is through the command line. So I can set that up right now. So if I go to switch user here, I will configure the AWS command line tools or not. I need to figure out what that key stuff was. Removed. Oh, yes, that's right. So, since I'm going to change these later, I don't care that people see them. Again, using the right click for accessing the paste mechanism. Putty. Default region, I know I'm in the West. Then I'll just, for now, use JSON as the file format. Okay, so what that allows me to do is I can, so going back to the buckets I was playing around with. So one of them I wanted to look at was the Human Microbiome Project. So when you're looking through these like lists of data sets, there's going to be two, like I was talking about earlier, there's two different ways that you can actually access that. One is going to be via S3. Well, depending on the data set, some of them will be available on S3 and some will be available on EBS snapshots. In this case, this one is on S3. So like from this link here, let me zoom in a bit. Can you read that? Can you read that there?
Yeah.
Okay. So from this link, I can see that it's S3 bucket. It's within the US West 2 region. And then this is the bucket name, so Human Microbiome Project. So I'm just going to use that and do a simple command from here. And there's all sorts of documentation on this tool that you can use. Oh, that's right. I didn't update my access fully. So let me go back and update that. So what that was saying is that I didn't actually grant this user any access yet. So what I need to do is I create the user without giving access. So first, I need to go to the credentials and create a group for it. So new group. Let's do S3. This will have search S3. Read-only access. Next step. Read-only gives the policies. So what I'm doing here is just giving it one. The only access this particular login has is being able to read S3 buckets. So that creates the group, and I need to go into the actual user, add the user to a group, check that box, add them, and then so he's in a group. The permissions he's inheriting are the group policies, which is read-only access to the S3. So that is set up now. If I run it again, it has access now, so it can actually list off the things in there. So I can do spot marker. Names. Now it's listing out. Oops. So there, it's like, so S3 is basically like a file server just out massively in there. So it's got a ton of folders and then some files here. So I can go into Python if I had access to Jupyter. I don't. Let me try running it. So let me try running it again. I can VPN in now. Man, all these sorts of problems. Okay. So let me switch back. Notebook. Cool. So I'm running it. Go to my folder. Let me try from here. Not. Nope. Okay. Well, that's fun stuff. But you have access to it, right? Maybe we can do it through yours then. So I'll walk you through writing up some code to actually access that bucket and do some specific stuff with it.
Okay.
So let me go. So before I switch to you, let me actually show you another fun thing on this. So like you've seen me a bunch like having to kind of, whenever I do that little canceling thing, I hit Control-C to basically try killing that script and ask me if I want to kill it. That gets kind of bothersome because if I want to keep it running, even if I closed out of this, it would kill it if I ran it locally here. So what I can do here is actually run so if I exit, go back to the EC2 user, if I run a command called screen, it'll make me basically appear into a new shell. And with this, I can switch the GPU user to the input folder, run the Jupyter notebook. Running, if I hit Control-A, then tap C, it brings me to a new screen. Oh, wait a second. Nope. So try accessing it, see if it's still running. It should be running.
Okay.
Because I exited out of something separately.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's running the background of that rather than me having to do any sort of fanciness there. So that's it. So now that you've got that, so go ahead and pull it up.
Okay.
And then share your screen. And now let's create a new Python 2 workbook.
Okay.
So import pandas and NumPy as PD. Yeah, standard. And also this other tool I just sent you in the chat.
NP?
NP, yeah. And then from Boto. Yeah. Go to the Hangout thing and then copy from the chat the line I sent.
Is that not?
I just let you do it. I'll just write it out then.
Okay.
Go to .s3.
S3.
.connection. Import capital S3, capital C connection. Connection, capital C. All one word there.
Okay.
It's importing one specific function inside that. Okay, so you can run that block. Then the next one. Oh, perfect. Okay, so the next one. Oops. Oh shit. Oh, what did I do? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, something was making funny noises. Okay. Oh. Uh-oh. What I changed the setting. I have some sort of okay. Anyway, so next block, do file name equals. Oops. Oh, you gotta change it back to a code block.
Equals.
Did you see you changed it to Markdown?
Oh, how did I do that?
Keyboard shortcuts, remember? Yeah.
File name. Oops.
Yeah. Equals /etc /credentials.csv. That should all be inside a single quote.
Oh. And you said
That's supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay. And then next line, df equals pd.readcsv, and then the file name.
The underscore CSV?
Yep. Still no something. In parentheses, file name.
Okay.
And then next line, access key equals df square bracket, single quote, no dot, no dot.
Oh. Oops.
Yeah. And then this one is, these words are capitalized and separated with spaces, access key ID. Just the first letter is capitalized. Two S's in access, and lowercase d, oddly enough. And then after that, do another square bracket and put a 0. So you're subsetting just the first row of it. And then the same type of thing, but the next, so you can basically copy paste that line, and then just prepend secrets, or secret, to that. So secret underscore access key, and then secret access key. And then remove the ID.
They're all the same except.
Oop, what happened there?
Wait. I don't know, I just copied it. Okay.
Okay, copy that part. The whole thing.
Wait.
Yeah, copy the whole line.
I did. There we go.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then, no, leave access, so it's secret access key.
Secret access key.
Yeah. And then secret access key inside of there. Then delete the ID portion in that space. And then shift enter to enter a new cell. Now, S3 equals, then using the function you imported above, S3 connection. So capital S3C. Yeah. Then open parentheses, access key, comma, secret access key. So you're basically just feeding that function the credentials to log into S3.
Keep misspelling access.
Yeah. Shift enter. And now bucket equals S3.get underscore bucket.
Underscore
bucket.
Underscore what? Oh, bucket.
The bucket. And then in parentheses, do a single quote. Human microbiome project. All lowercase separated with dashes. Human microbiome. Microbiome.
Bio?
ME. Biome. Bio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dash project. It's all those gut bacteria. And shift enter on that. And now we're going to do a small for loop here. So for key in bucket.list. Key in bucket. So it's separate. Yeah, you're going to loop through the bucket list. Well, that sounds like list. Open parentheses. Prefix equals single quote reference underscore genomes /. Okay, and then the next argument, so close the single quote, comma, delimiter equals single quote /.
Like that?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then at the end of the line, add a colon, and then hit enter to enter into the for loop. No, delete that.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the line, a colon. There's your enters. You're setting to start the for loop. Now, next line, tabbed in, yep. So print, oh man, this is very particular. Let me just send you, oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so copy that over. Oh, you can't copy it, can you?
I don't know. It's not highlighting whenever I...
That's weird. Okay, well, just type that out then.
Okay. This. Print. Wow, it doesn't let me keep it on the
Windows key left. Oh. Yeah.
What does that say?
Well, your single quotes are off.
Oh.
Should be before the I. Yeah, in Jupyter. Dot format.
Format. Okay.
K equals K dot name. I equals I. Oh, so I even have. I may have not updated that code correctly, sorry. That's like an error out on you. So in order to just make that useful, go in the top of the cell block to control home, add a line before the for loop. Yeah, you can try that. Inside the cell block, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I equals 0. And then inside the for loop, so the first line before the print statement, just do I plus equals 1. Yeah, okay, so run that.
Is not fine.
Oh, key equals k. Oh, key.name, not k.name. Sorry. Yeah. So run that. So now it's going to basically. So all it's doing is it loops through that subset of the bucket
Mm-hmm.
and lists all the files there. So one. Let me try sending it to you this way. Copy from. Did you not get that message? On Hangouts? No, I sent it in the logged into it. The actual Hangouts thing, yeah. Yeah, that's just code to pull down some files.
Okay.
Cool. And then just, oh wait, check the spacing of, since the print statement's red there, check the spacing of it, make sure it's correct.
Where?
Do you see where the print word is red? The spacing of it
Oh,
seems to be
yeah.
off. No, add the spacing. So I think all it is that you pasted it in, so it's confused. So just before the print line, before the print word, or the backspace and enter one, or tab. Oh yeah. No, not tab that far. Oh.
What?
Oh yeah, never mind. Yeah. Do it to the if statement as well as the file name.
Okay.
All those lines need to be tabbed. Yeah. Because it was non-standard. Okay. And then run that one. And so basically all that did is downloading files within the reference genomes folder that end with the JSON extension. So just download 2 files there. So if I go back to like my screen here. Oops. That's connection. Two. Okay. So that's you. That's, yeah. So I got these 2 files now. So I can just turn to them. And that's the very quick summary file of stuff. And then a huge file of lots of things. All the different genomes, I think. Yeah. Interesting. Gastrointestinal tract. Hello. Let's see what else is there, actually. Ooh. Blood. It's a good place to find stuff. Ooh. Good. Oh, nice. Okay, anyway. Heart. Ooh, that's kind of scary. Pasta files. Sweet. Alright, so there's that. So that's one type of one way you can import data from this is that you've got the S3 buckets. The other one, let's pull an example from, let's do the influenza virus. So they have the full sequences of many variations of the flu. So the way to, and this one's stored on an EBS snapshot, a public EBS snapshot. And what that means is similar to how I was talking about how you can do the launch a new instance from a special Amazon image that you create yourself. You can also do the same thing with snapshots of volumes of EBS. So you can use these public ones, or you can actually use separate, you can create your own too. So you just search for the file that I was looking for. odd. Really? Oh, wait, maybe a snapshot. Well, that's pleasant.
Have you found your boxes?
What?
You found your boxes?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's odd. Create volume. I'll try a different one maybe. Let's see. Yes, this one's. Wow. Okay, let's use this one. 50. Okay. What? Okay. That's snapshot ID. Have to pull the snapshots. Need it. What are we doing? Well, maybe we should just kill it right here. Volumes. Is on the east. Probably part of it. Yeah, that's in the east. This one doesn't say. Interesting. Let's try switching to the east. See if it actually exists. I won't be able to actually attach it to any of these, but I can at least show that it shows up somewhere. I can obviously, yeah, so it shows up there. But since it's a something in the east, I won't be able to actually access it. So that's one thing that I guess you have to also take into account is that the data will be living in a particular location globally. So you won't be able to copy it easily across them, maybe. I'll have to look at that one. So we've come to learn, so let's maybe spin up another instance. Nah. We'll leave that down. Okay, well, so that covers most of the things I want to do on this. So we can go ahead and kill the live stream and then we'll just play around with some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's see. Alrighty, so we will maybe do some of these again once we figure out more about what we want to check out. Until next time.